There are crashes in NASCAR that you watch, you wince, and 30 seconds later, everybody moves on. And then there are the other kind. The kind where the entire grandstand goes silent. The kind where you find yourself leaning toward the screen, waiting, just waiting, for a hand to come out of the window, for any sign at all that the driver inside is okay. What happened on lap 147 at Michigan this weekend was the second kind. Two of the best drivers in the entire NASCAR Cup Series, Chase Elliott and Christopher Bell, were running side by side, fighting for second place, at almost 200 miles an hour. And in the space of a single second, it all came apart. One car broke loose. Both cars slammed into the outside wall. One of them caught fire. And the safer barrier, the very wall that's designed to protect drivers, was damaged so badly that NASCAR had to stop the entire race for 20 minutes just to weld it back together. But here's the part that turns this from a scary moment into a real story. The driver who caused it isn't some reckless rookie. He isn't a known troublemaker. He is by a wide margin the most popular driver in the entire sport, and one of the cleanest racers NASCAR has ever had. And the driver who got hurt is a championship contender who was, until that moment, having one of the best seasons of his career. So, today, we're going to walk through exactly what happened on that lap. The injury that nobody saw coming, the remarkable thing Chase Elliott did the second. He climbed out of his wrecked car, and what all of this means for two drivers, heading into the most important stretch of the entire season. Stay with me, because this one is so much bigger, just a wreck. Welcome back to Freedom Line News, the channel where we don't just chase the drama, we actually break down what really happened on the track. If you're new here, take a quick second to hit that subscribe button. This community is growing every week, and we cover these NASCAR stories with the heart and the detail they truly deserve. All right, let's get into it. To understand why this crash matters so much, you have to understand who was involved, because this wasn't two backmarkers tangling at the rear of the field. This was a collision between two genuine stars. Start with Christopher Bell. The driver of the number 20 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing has been one of the strongest, most consistent drivers in all of NASCAR this season. He's already locked into the playoffs. Week after week, he's been right there in contention for race wins. He is, without any exaggeration, firmly in the championship conversation. And at Michigan, before the crash, Bell was doing exactly what he's done all year, running up front, fighting for a top finish, looking every bit like a man who belonged in the lead pack. Now the other driver, Chase Elliott. And this is where the story gets its weight. Because Chase Elliott isn't just any driver. He has been voted the most popular driver in NASCAR year after year after year. The fans adore him. And just as importantly, he carries a reputation as one of the cleanest, most respectful racers in the entire garage. When you think of drivers who wreck people, who race ace with their elbows out, who leave a trail of angry rivals behind them, Chase Elliott is the opposite of that. He's the guy other drivers trust on the racetrack. Which is exactly why what happened next was so shocking. Because the last person anyone expected to be at the center of a violent, injury-causing wreck was Chase Elliott. And here's the cruel irony of it all. Before that lap, Chase Elliott wasn't just having a good day at Michigan, he was having a great one. Maybe his best of the season. Elliott had won the second stage of the race outright. He had led 67 laps, the most of any driver in the race up to that point. His car was fast, his strategy was working, he was in complete control. For a Hendrick Motorsports team that has only managed 2 wins all season, this was shaping up to be the kind of day that could turn their whole year around. Sitting fourth in the championship standings, and he looked like a genuine threat to win the race. So picture the situation late in the race, fresh tires on his car, a restart coming up. Elliott lined up to attack, trying to use that fresh rubber to fight his way forward and grab second place. He had everything going for him, the speed, the position, the momentum. All he had to do was execute one clean restart and a few clean laps. And that's the thing about racing at this level. The margin between a brilliant day and a disaster is razor thin. It can disappear in a single heartbeat. So let's go to the moment itself. Lap 147. Just moments after the restart, Chase Elliott and Christopher Bell are side by side, screaming toward turn 3. At nearly 200 miles an hour, Elliott is running the bottom lane, trying to make those fresh tires work. trying to complete the pass for second. Bell is right beside him, refusing to give an inch. This is exactly the kind of side-by-side racing that fans love. Two great drivers, neither one lifting, trusting each other at terrifying speed. And then Elliott's car steps out from underneath him. The back end breaks loose. He loses traction. In his own words later, he thought he was going to spin, and he was already committing to spinning out. But instead of spinning down low, the car suddenly hooked and shot up the racetrack, directly into the side of Christopher Bell's Toyota. There was nowhere for Bell to go. The contact sent both cars hard into the outside wall at nearly full speed, and it didn't end there. Bell's car hit the wall so violently that it damaged the safer barrier itself, the energy-absorbing safety wall that's specifically engineered to survive these impacts. And then, as the cars came back down the track, Elliott's car made contact with Bell a second time, this time on the driver's side door. If you know anything about racing safety, you know that's the worst place to take a hit. The driver's side is the most vulnerable part of the car, and that second impact is very likely the reason Christopher Bell from this crash hurt. What followed was the part that made everyone's stomach drop. Both cars were destroyed, completely, and then Bell's Toyota briefly caught fire after slamming the wall, adding one more terrifying element to a crash. Already had everyone holding their breath. The damage to the safer barrier was so severe that NASCAR couldn't just clean up the cars and go back to racing. They had to throw a red flag and stop the race entirely. Track crews came out and spent 20 full minutes repairing and welding the wall back into a safe condition. In a sport where a normal caution lasts a few minutes, a 20-minute red flag to repair a safety barrier tells you everything about how hard these two cars hit. Now here's the moment that mattered most to everyone watching. Both drivers climbed the door under their own power. And anytime you see that, anytime a driver can get out on his own after a hit like that, there's a wave of relief. But then came a detail that told a quieter, more worrying story. Chase Elliott was evaluated at the infield care center and released fairly quickly. He came out and spoke to the media. Christopher Bell, on the other hand, stayed in that care center much, much longer. And when he finally was released, he didn't speak to anyone. He walked out the other side of the building, said nothing, and left. And for anyone paying attention, that silence was the first sign that something wasn't right. It wasn't until after the race, after Denny Hamlin had celebrated his win, that the truth came out. And it came from one of the most respected voices in the entire sport, Christopher Bell's team owner, the legendary Joe Gibbs. Standing in front of the media, Gibbs confirmed what that long stay in the care center had hinted at. Christopher Bell was injured. Specifically, Gibbs said Bell was dealing with injuries to his wrist and his ankle. He explained that the team would keep evaluating him, that when Bell got home, they'd make sure he got everything he needed, and then, in a phrase that hung in the air, Gibbs simply said, "We're just going to have to wait. We're just going to have to wait." Think about what that means for a championship contender. Races at Pocono, the famous Tricky Triangle, in just 1 week, and suddenly, one of the title favorites is heading into that weekend with a wrist and an ankle that have to be reevaluated before anyone knows if he can even drive. Now, the early signs suggest Bell will likely be in the car at Pocono. There's been no official word that he'll miss the race, but the very fact that it's a question, that's the problem. In a season this tight, where playoff positioning matters enormously, an injury that lingers even a little can cost a driver dearly. Missing time, or racing hurt, at this stage of the year is exactly the kind of thing that can quietly derail a championship run. And for Bell, it's just the latest chapter in what's already been a season full of trials. This is one more obstacle at the worst possible time. But of course, and everyone in the sport agrees on this, Bell's health comes first. Everything else is secondary to making sure he's okay. And now we come to the part of this story that honestly is the reason it's worth telling at all. Because of how Chase Elliott responded. When a driver causes a wreck like this, there's a whole plethora of ways to dodge the blame. You can say it was a racing deal. You can say the other guy squeezed you. You can say the car just got away, and there was nothing you could do. Drivers do it all the time. It's human nature to protect yourself. Chase Elliott did none of that. The moment he was out of the care center, in front of the cameras, he took every ounce of the blame onto himself. He said plainly that it was totally his fault and that he felt really bad for Christopher Bell for just taking him out. He didn't hide behind excuses. He explained exactly what he was trying to do: run the bottom, use his fresh tires, get to second, and stay side by side with Bell. And he admitted that he simply got in there and got loose, and that he thought he was going to spin. No spin on the truth, no deflection, no blaming the other driver. Just a man looking into the camera and saying, "I did this, and I feel terrible about it." And that's what makes this so different from your typical NASCAR crash story. This wasn't a feud. There's no bad blood here, no rivalry boiling over, no payback coming. It was the sport's most popular and most respected driver making a genuine, honest mistake at 200 miles an hour, and then immediately, completely owning it. In an era where so many athletes point fingers and protect their image, there's something almost old-fashioned about the way Elliott handled it. He fell on the sword. And it probably cost him a great finish too, because remember, his own car was destroyed in the same crash. He took himself out right along with Bell. Two of the day's strongest cars, both gone, in one mistake that Elliott refused to blame on anyone but himself. So let's step back and look at the bigger picture, because there are real consequences here that go beyond one Sunday afternoon. For Christopher Bell, this is a gut punch. He was running up front, in contention, doing everything right. And through no fault of his own, he ends up in a wrecked car, in the care center, and now dealing with injuries that could affect him going forward. He didn't make a mistake. He didn't do anything wrong. He was simply in the wrong place when another car got loose. That's one of the cruelest things about this sport. Sometimes the damage done to you has nothing to do with you at all. And as he heads to Pocono with a wrist and an ankle that need watching, the whole NASCAR world will be holding its breath to see if he's at full strength. For Chase Elliott, this is a different kind of weight to carry. But think about what he has to live with. The most popular driver in the sport, a guy whose entire reputation is built on racing people clean, and with respect, is now the man who put a fellow championship contender into the wall and into the care center. He'll replay that lap in his head 1,000 times. I just lifted, and the what if I'd given him a little more room, but especially for one who prides himself on racing the right way. And the way he handled it, taking full responsibility without hesitation, tells you exactly why the fans love him in the first place. Even in his worst moment of the season, he showed you. That made him the sport's most popular driver. And it all happened on a day that was already chaotic. Michigan delivered a record-setting number of crashes this weekend. It truly was a survival of the fittest out there. But of all the carnage, of all the wrecked cars and big names who left with damaged equipment, this was the one that mattered most, because this was the one that left a driver hurt, and left the sport's nicest carrying the blame. So as we look ahead to Pocono next weekend, there are two questions hanging over everything. Will Christopher Bell be healthy enough to race at full strength? And how will Chase Elliott bounce back from a mistake? An admission was entirely his own. Two of the best drivers in NASCAR, both shaken by a single second at Michigan, both heading into a crucial race with something to prove. So now I want to hear from you. Do you give Chase Elliott credit for immediately owning the mistake and apologizing? Or does taking the blame not change the fact that a driver got hurt? And do you think Christopher Bell will be back to full strength in time for Pocono? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. If this breakdown was worth your time, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to Freedom Line News, where we cover every NASCAR story with the detail it actually deserves. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.